welcome back to the BXG podcast for a very special BXG Gamecast episode. The studio acquisitions on both sides of the Xbox and PlayStation War are coming so fast and furious, not even family can slow them down.
Family.
I'm sorry. But we have more to discuss than just the ongoing murders and executions. Sony held a state of play last Wednesday, focusing on Gran Turismo. Discord functionality has finally been added to PlayStation, and Microsoft showed off the first trailer of the Halo series. And it's worth noting that Nintendo is up in the studio fantasy draft. Although I don't think that's not really their game. Either way, we welcome back our very special correspondent, our gaming correspondent, Mr. Charles Chambers. How are you this evening, Devo?
Listen, if you want to keep having me on the podcast, you need to quit getting a hold of your boys at Sony and Xbox and having all these big news and stuff. Listen, this was supposed to be a once every now and again thing. This is every week now, man.
Yeah,
this is so breakneck speed.
It really is. I don't think anybody saw this coming.
No,
this is almost even more unexpected than the last one we talked about, which was the Activision, the Microsoft Activision deal, which was pretty crazy.
It is,
and it's ongoing, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the first thing we're going to talk about is Sony purchasing Bungie. And I think the best way to do this is to kind of weed through the statements the same way we did with Microsoft and Activision.
Yeah.
So Bungie, the former Microsoft first-party studio famous for developing Halo, earning its freedom only to link up with Activision in developing Destiny, and again asking out of their deal, has been purchased by Sony for $3.6 billion with a B dollars. For reference, Sony's second biggest purchase was Insomniac in 2019 for $229 million. PlayStation CEO and part-time Olive Garden busboy Jim Ryan announced via a PlayStation blog post the deal itself, and also explicitly clarified that Bungie will remain an independent and multi-platform studio. So I do have the statements here. There's some from Jim Ryan. I'm glad he could get a break from his shift at Olive Garden. And then also head of Worldwide Studios, Herman Hulse. And then also from Pete Parsons, the Bungie CEO. I just have a problem with the way that Jim Ryan dresses. He's got like the black pants and the white shirt with no tie.
No tie,
way
right?
Too tight.
Yeah,
and
it's like a medium.
Yeah, he looks like he should be bringing around Andy's candies to you after you're done with your soup, salad, and breadsticks.
Cold, brother.
I just don't like him. He's a bean counter, man. He doesn't get games.
I agree.
They went from the Dynamite like pairing of Sean Layden and Shuhei Yoshida to these two fucking chain restaurant looking motherfuckers.
Yeah, Sean Layden was great.
Yeah, he was
great.
I think between the two of them, between him and then Shu running Worldwide Studios, I mean, there's a reason why they cleaned up in the PS4 generation, but that's neither here nor there. We have the blog post. So this is from Jim Ryan. First off, I want to be very clear to the community that Bungie will remain an independent and multi-platform studio and publisher. As such, we believe it makes sense for it to sit alongside the PlayStation Studios organization, and we are incredibly excited about the opportunities for synergies and collaboration and other cliches between these two world-class groups. I have spent a lot of time with Pete Parsons, Jason Jones, and the Bungie management team to develop the right relationships where they will be fully backed and supported by Sony Interactive Entertainment and enabled to do what they do best, build incredible worlds and captivate millions of people. So first sentence out of the gates. First off, I want to be very clear to the community that Bungie will remain an independent and multi-platform studio and publisher, which is very different from the approach that Vince Vaughn lookalike Phil Spencer has over at Xbox with the will they, won't they, we'll see sort of deal.
I mean, that is a pretty definitive statement. And something that really stood out with me here is publisher also. It makes me wonder what kind of red tape comes along with that, because I don't know if it's come out since we recorded last with the Xbox episode with the Activision, if they were going to cover their publishing rights as well, or if it was just the game studio side of it. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Of course, they're going to keep it a multi-platform thing because of Bungie. Bungie is a moneymaker with Destiny, right? Yeah. Destiny is going to be a moneymaker. You got communities that are on there, pretty solidified communities on there, given the years that the game's been out. So that's not a surprise. Just the publisher part. I'm really curious to see how that works out and what influence they have on that, or if any.
Right. And I think that, so reel this in for a second just to explain exactly what that means. So when you are working with a publisher, and we covered, I don't know if you and I covered it specifically, but I know I've covered it at some point in the past on the podcast. So you have a lot of different vocabulary here. You have first party studio, then there's second party, third party, publisher, self-published, working with a publisher, that sort of thing. So first party is a studio that is owned by the parent entity, whether it be PlayStation, Microsoft, Nintendo, and then you can kind of head out to the big publishers like Ubisoft, Take-Two, EA, formerly Activision Blizzard, not so much anymore. And then those studios are underneath them. Second party is where this kind of gets into the weeds a little bit with the publisher thing. Is a second party is they're making the game on behalf of that studio, and that studio is publishing. And so what that means is it kind of takes out the financial risk for some of these studios, that if they're an indie studio and their game bombs and it doesn't make any money, they're pretty much screwed. But if you're backed by a big publisher such as Sony, like I said, Sony, Xbox, Take-Two, whatever, Nintendo, right, then you're typically, that means that parent organization owns the IP, but you're the one making it. Now there are, it's a little bit of an
insurance policy.
Yeah, it's like an insurance policy, but you have them kind of like helping you to produce. So a good example of that would have been, I think the best example of that would have been Insomniac before they were purchased.
Yes.
They were probably the biggest in quote unquote indie studio that was in a second party relationship with Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man, and then Sunset Overdrive. They own the IP for it, but it is an Xbox exclusive. Right. So they were a second party. A more current one would probably be Kana, Bridge of Spirits, Ember Labs. Yes. It was in a second party relationship. Sony funded that game. Third party is anything that's outside of the realm and is usually operating with a publisher like Take-Two or EA or Ubisoft. But they are typically more multi-platform. So prior to this acquisition, Bungie was a third-party entity. I mean, prior they were with Activision, and then previously they were with Xbox, obviously, but they were in a third-party role. And third-party games have more latitude to put the game wherever they want. They're not tied to any exclusives unless they sign something a la Square Enix and Final Fantasy 16, for example. That's kind of where all this shakes out. I'm curious if they would be open to publishing kind of in sort of the same way that like working with those second party teams, kind of like Santa Monica was for many years with like the XDev and some of those smaller studios that were found over there in Santa Monica, working in the same building as where God of War was being made. Do you think that that's what you're looking at with this as a publisher thing? That
I don't know, because you think of PlayStation. I mean, PlayStation just in itself as a separate entity has got the chops to publish whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
So I think this is just a money thing, like maybe existing contracts to get kind of tendrils in, and maybe, I don't know, have PlayStation, stick with publishing their own stuff, their big stuff, and then have somebody like a Bungie maybe take up some of the smaller stuff, maybe reach out a little bit more, just to get a piece of the pie, you know?
Where is Bungie? Is it in Canada?
That is a good question. I have
think
no idea,
I've
actually.
always felt like that was a thing. Like,
Let's see. Quality entertainment here while we do some
Washington, Bellevue, Washington.
Oh,
yeah. So it's up there kind of like with Bend. It's like neighbors with Sony Bend, which is in Bend, Oregon. Didn't know that. For some reason, I always felt like it was Canadian. I don't know why.
Close enough.
Yeah, more or less. The other thing that kind of jumped out at me in this particular paragraph was that they will be fully backed and supported by Sony Interactive Entertainment and enabled to do what they do best, build incredible worlds and captivate millions of people. Now, this has kind of already been fleshed out since the announcement, and we are a little bit late on this. There's going to be a Destiny TV show or movie or both, and everything with that. I don't know that they've said that specifically, but Sony's going so all in on making series and movies for all of their big IP. We know that we know we're getting an Uncharted movie here in a couple weeks. We know we're getting a Last of Us series on HBO. I'm pretty sure that they're making a God of War series. Twisted Metal has also been announced.
Twisted Metal,
yeah, they're definitely all in on that, which is kind of a, like, minus the Halo series that we're going to talk about here in a little while after, you know, we get through the meat and potatoes. That's not really something that Microsoft's looking into per se. Right.
And I think it really is because PlayStation already has the assets for this. They already have the studios. They already have these, it's basically just set up bread and butter for this. Like it's just an easy transition to get it in other media, get it in TV shows, get it in movies and stuff like that. And you're looking at multifaceted revenue for these IPs that your gaming studios are buying up.
Right.
So, I mean, it makes sense. I don't know if it's the greatest of ideas because I'm always reluctant with the transition from a video game media to a purely visual media like a TV show or movie, because there's so much lost in translation sometimes, and sometimes it just doesn't translate well at all. So it's a bit of a risk for me. Like it's I don't know, it's kind of worrisome, to be honest.
I do think, and not to get too far into this particular tangential topic, but I do think that they're smart enough to go the route of series and not movies. I think that movies are a death trap for games to come to, like you said, a purely visual medium, whereas a series, a 10-episode series, a 10-episode Netflix series, or a 10-episode HBO series, there's meat and potatoes that you can cut out the fat from a 15-hour game like The Last of Us. There's 15 hours of that first game that you can cut out, and now all of a sudden you do have a coherent 10-episode thing. But if you try to cram all that into a 2-hour movie, and that's why I think the Uncharted movie is going to fail, is because, like, if you watch the trailers and you're familiar with those games, there's aspects taken of all 4 mainline games, and they're trying to cram it into probably a 2-hour action movie, and I just don't think that it's going to work. But on that front, I do think, because like The Witcher is kind of a weird example, because as much as everybody associates that with being a game, it is also a series of fantasy novels. So
decently successful fantasy novel too. So
fantasy novels. The Castlevania anime, some of the other stuff, Red versus Blue, things like that. I think the TV is a better way to go, but that's kind of a topic that's on the side. We'll jump back to Jim here. Bungie's world-class expertise in multi-platform development and live game services will help us deliver on our vision of expanding PlayStation to hundreds of millions of gamers. Bungie is a great innovator and has developed incredible proprietary tools that will help PlayStation studios achieve new heights under Herman Hulst's leadership. So there's 2 kind of things to pick out here. Bungie's world-class expertise in multi-platform development and live game services will help us deliver on our vision of expanding. And then secondly, talking about their quote unquote incredible proprietary tools. So tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, I'll save my comments, but what do you think about this?
First off, that first comment about multi-platform development, you can say multi-platform all you want, but all that screams to me is PC expansion. Just they are a seasoned studio now with Destiny being on PC and stuff like that. And if you read into it a little bit more about what Bungie has available as far as their, and I hate the term live service, like that just makes me shiver, but they really have like amazing diagnostic tools, like live statistical analysis of what's going on in their game at any moment. Like it's really impressive if you take the time to look into it. And that's what I hear when I hear proprietary tools. That's what I think about, because they've really dug into what makes their game tick from a technical level, what works, what doesn't work. And it's live game services just kind of rub me the wrong way. Destiny's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way because of that model. And I'll just say as a general comment, I actually enjoyed Destiny from the moment to moment gameplay. Like I think the shooting is tight. Like as far as a console shooter goes, it's still very satisfying. Like the gameplay from moment to moment is some of the best you'll get on console, but just the infrastructure of it and the way the seasons are and the way the raids are, like I feel like it kind of milks its consumers a little bit, and I'm afraid that's kind of what they're hinting at here.
See, I'm looking at it from a different perspective, although
Okay.
I will say that I know that it's been discussed that Sony has 3 or 4 live service games in development, which I think is a bit silly because you're going to be cannibalizing your own audience there.
Yes.
Stick with one, maybe,
Right.
And I think that this is where I read into this, between this and a tweet that went out on February 3rd from Neil Druckmann. I think Factions is in trouble. And I think that, this deal was 5-6 months in the making.
Oh yeah.
And I think that part of that is that they would like to make Factions, The Last of Us Factions, a live service game to at least some extent, or like a continuous multiplayer game. And part of me thinks that, now I don't think this is the sole reason. I think if you can go get Bungie, you go get Bungie. But I think that maybe that those are what those proprietary tools are going to help with, is nailing this down. I know that Factions was immensely popular on the standalone multiplayer for the original Last of Us on the PS3. Yes. I never myself played it, but I know it was immensely popular, and there's a lot of pressure on that studio to deliver. There's a boatload of pressure on that studio to deliver, and Neil tweeted out that, or Naughty Dog Jobs on Twitter, and then Neil retweeted it, Neil Druckmann, that they are hiring for about 35 positions, 35 listings, which
that's alarming.
That's a lot. Either that or they're ramping up for the next new game.
I mean, that's wishful thinking right there. But when you have Factions that has kind of been sitting there, you haven't really heard much from PlayStation official about it at all.
Why haven't we seen it yet? It's been 3 years.
Yeah, you haven't heard a
2
peep about it. I mean, not even a new trailer, like nothing.
There's a leaked map. Too. There's a leaked map, and that was it.
Yeah. So, take that for what you may, but
right.
When you have, it's an offshoot of one of your main IPs, but when you're this quiet about it for this long and you haven't heard anything about it, and then like you said, you have the studio having all these listings, I mean, it's kind of, if you smell smoke, chances are there's a fire. So maybe this has something to do with that. I mean, that's definitely a way to look at it. But I mean, even if this is, let's say you're correct, say this is Bungie acquisition to kind of help with Factions or kind of get in some technology for it or whatever they need. So, I mean, I can't imagine how far that pushes back the release of it. I mean, that's got to be delayed indefinitely.
We haven't seen it How do we even, I mean, we all know it exists,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
we haven't seen anything from it. What if they're just scrapping it?
That would be awful. That
Would
would be
it?
awful.
Would it?
I mean, I'm not going to miss it because I'm not into it. Like
Here's the
I
thing,
wasn't ever into factions, but I know a lot of people would be.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Don't do it.
I think Naughty Dog has maybe lost a little bit of its luster.
Ooh. Oh, how do you say something so controversial yet so brave?
I think that I just think that I'm looking at, I want to double check something here. It's been 15 years, okay, since Drake's Fortune. So in 15 years, they've made 4 Uncharted games and 2 Last of Us games. 5 Uncharted games, count Lost Legacy, and then the standalone DLC Left Behind for Last of Us. 15 years. I'd like to see them make something else at this point. I'm a huge Uncharted fan. We were talking about it before we went on, like, started recording. I'm a huge Uncharted fan.
Yes.
I've tweeted an Instagram message to Tom Holland daring him to come on the podcast and allow me to challenge him.
All the balls of you, sir.
It is like, it's time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially with how long it's been taking to make these games.
All right.
It took 4 years between A Thief's End and Last was Part 2. There was time between A Thief's End and Lost Legacy because they overpromised, and then the game kind of grew into its own thing. I just think I'm just ready to move on. I'm ready to move on.
I know this is a little off topic, but I mean, would you like to see them do like a complete 180, like Guerrilla, like going from a Killzone to Horizon, which is just completely different? Is that what you're looking for?
How do you, like, there's only so much room in the first party family for gritty third person action games. Don't get me wrong.
Returnal says, great. Fuck you, sir.
But I'm kidding. Like, yes, that's true. But like, formulaically, it was, I don't know if that's a word, it is now, way different because it was basically a roguelike, you know what I mean?
True.
There's not like a third person over the shoulder action adventure gritty story. Let's just tick them off.
Right.
Last of Us, Uncharted 4, the previous 3 were pretty lighthearted. Ghost of Tsushima, Days Gone, Infamous, Bloodborne,
yeah. I mean, I get you.
Gorilla or Horizon. It's a little bit more lighthearted, but it is post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Well, look at the sales numbers. Why are you going to stop beating that dead horse? Why would you even do that?
Yeah, I get that. And like, I guess, well, let's get through this because I do have like an overarching question, right?
Okay.
God of War.
Oh yeah, sorry. Old chestnut.
Yeah, I mean, take those away and you have like, you know, you've got Spider-Man and Ratchet, and that's about it on the whole lighthearted side of things. But you know,
but it's still third person action.
Still third person action, right? I mean, Ratchet's more of a mascot platformer, but it is technically still third person action.
Yep.
Okay, so head of Worldwide Studios, Herman Holst. I am absolutely thrilled to announce a new member will be joining the PlayStation family. I've been a huge fan of Bungie for many years. I have admired and enjoyed the games that they create and have great respect for their skill in building worlds that gamers want to explore again and again. Bungie makes games with outstanding technology that are enormously fun to play. They also have unmatched dedication to the communities that play their games, and everyone at PlayStation and PlayStation Studios will be excited about what we can share and learn from them. So I think this is kind of like in the same vein as sort of what we said, sharing those sort of proprietary tools. And we talked a little bit about trying to challenge Microsoft in the shooter space, and you wonder, not necessarily Destiny because it's going to stay multi-plat, but We talked about SOCOM, we talked about Killzone, we talked about
Yeah,
Resistance.
this is a forward thinking move, you would think, because
Yeah,
this kind of shows that they don't want to pull Guerrilla back off for a first person shooter.
mhm,
This shows, hey, you keep doing that, everybody keep doing what you're doing. We're going to bring in this new
right.
studio who has the chops for FPS to maybe take a crack at one of our IPs or maybe something new.
Sure. I have spent a great deal of time with the senior team at Bungie, and it is clear their experience and skills are highly complementary to our own. We will be ready to welcome and support Bungie as they continue to grow, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for this incredible team. So, anything else on Herman, the wet blanket?
Yeah, he's got the personality of a wet paper towel.
Yeah,
It's I mean, I feel like most of this is just,
it's a lot of fluff.
yeah, it's a window dressing, just
Yeah.
prettying it up. No really newsworthy things in here. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's just meh from
Yeah.
him.
Pete Parsons, Bungie CEO, we believe games have limitless potential, and that to do anything worthwhile in entertainment, remember that word, entertainment, we must bet big on our vision and our studio and on our incredible team of trusted creators who build unforgettable worlds that truly matter to people. In Sony, we have found a partner who unconditionally supports us in all we are and who wants to accelerate our vision to create generation spanning entertainment, all while preserving the creative independence that beats in Bungie's heart. Like us, Sony believes that game worlds are only the beginning of what our IPs can become. Together, we share a dream of creating and fostering iconic franchises that unite friends around the world, families across generations, and fans across multiple platforms and entertainment mediums. Again, write it down. You're getting Destiny movies, you're getting Destiny TV, you're getting Destiny pajama pants, socks, the whole nine.
I'm just surprised he was so forward about it. I mean, this is why they were.
Why play shadow games though? You know what I mean?
I mean, that's true. Well, because these things are still in development, they might not happen. Blah blah blah. But I mean, he's just straight up generation spanning entertainment. This is for the long haul. This is one. Bungie series is with their Destiny or whatever IPs they come up with. And I thought what was interesting, he said Sony believes that game worlds are only the beginning of what our IPs can become. I mean, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's let's make it a TV show. Let's get us some
tabletop
underwears.
Board game.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Funko Pops. Let's.
Right.
Yes, everything that you could possibly imagine. And I think it's funny that it's Bungie's side of it that's just like, yeah, we're expanded. This is great and everything.
Yeah.
And Sony was kind of mum about it, like, oh, we're just happy games and stuff, games. And now, Pete Parsons is like, yeah, I'm going to be on the big screen, and like that. It's I mean, yeah, it's the writing was on the wall anyway, but for him to be so bold to come out and say some stuff like this, kind of ballsy. Not going to lie.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just what did they say earlier? Synergies and all that bullshit. Those just oh my God, they're just the worst when they say that stuff. It's worth noting this deal has been in the works for the last 5 to 6 months. In an interview with Jim Ryan and P. Parsons at gamesindustry.biz, Ryan went on to say, quote, Bungie will operate autonomously within the Sony Interactive Entertainment Organization, and they will continue to publish on other platforms. We get the importance of this. We have grown studios organically, but we have also made a number of acquisitions over the years, whether it is Naughty Dog, Guerrilla Games, Sucker Punch Productions, and most recently Insomniac. We understand how important it is to give these great organizations the space and independence whilst I like the use of that word there, whilst bolstering that with the great support when and where that's needed. So this kind of like, I think it's good to say, we're going to give you the space and independence to make what you want to make, as long as it's a gritty third person over the shoulder action game.
Right.
But it is important, and it is worth noting that there's a tremendous amount of resource sharing within the first party at Sony. There's at Naughty Dog, there's a sub studio called ICE, the Initiative for the Common Engine. Guerrilla has a proprietary engine that runs Horizon Decima, but it also was used with Death Stranding, which is
Death Stranding,
second party thing through Kojima. There's a lot of that sort of, bolstering that with the great support when and where it's needed. There's a lot of cross pollination between these studios as far as them working together.
Yes. So something that alarms me about this purchase, and it's more Bungie's side than it is Sony's side, is they left Microsoft, right?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that's, the teenager growing up, moving out of the parents' house. That's what I'm picture that as. Not a big deal. Happens all the time.
Right.
You get big boy pants, you move on. So then they get scooped up by Activision as a way of funding. Like I feel like that was a funding measure for bigger and better things with Destiny 2 and stuff like that. But that relationship soured very quickly between Activision and Bungie. Almost like Bungie kind of gotten upset with how Activision was, I wouldn't say necessarily controlling things, but just how they were handling things. And this was before all the allegations of the workplace issues and stuff like that. This was way before that. So it kind of makes you wonder if Bungie is going to be okay now that they're purchased by Sony to have a parent company. It's almost like, they want the benefits of a parent company, but don't talk to us, leave us alone, right. Blah, blah, blah. And I mean, Sony could say this, Sony can say we're going to let them grow organically, leave them alone. That's not the case. It's money involved. They're going to have some sort of say-so, some sort of fingers in the pudding, making things work. And it makes me wonder if Bungie can handle that.
So I don't know if you've read the book Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by Jason Schreier, who is a bit of a Muppet, realistically, but the book's really good.
Okay.
And it chronicles kind of the development of, I think it's either 12 or 15 different games, and Destiny 1 is one of them. And it talks about how they got out from Microsoft and went to Activision. But then when they left Activision, it was a lot of the same stuff. It was a lot of, we're not making deadlines.
Yes.
We're not producing on time. We just want to keep making Destiny 1 content with just further expansion packs. But the parent company wants us to do Destiny 2 and then more expansion packs. And so you wonder how much of that will be, like you said, present with Sony, because at the end of the day, they've had production and publishing issues. And that's why you get a publisher.
Yes.
That's why you sign on with, if you're a second party studio, you sign on with Activision or Sony or Microsoft or whomever, because they're the ones who can put you on a schedule. And it seems to me, just through anecdotally what I read in that book, and then also everything of the fallout when they left Activision, was that they have issues with that, and they need that sort of push from somebody. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And this is, right now it's all cupcakes and rainbows, but it's going to be very interesting to see when they don't hit deadlines, what happens.
Yeah, I mean, they're like a teenager not going to school, smoking behind the shed, doing what they want, and it's all cool and well and all until, your exams are due. Like this product needs to be out, and this product's not up to our standards. And then it's like, oh man, whatever, you don't know us, teach and whatever. And then they go off and do their own thing. And then, oh God, we fucking suck. And then, get bought up by somebody else. So you're right. It'll be really interesting to see kind of how this plays out.
Because there's a lot of problems with Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 at launch. I mean, there was the whole Peter Dinklage thing, and then they had to get rid of him, and I think brought in Troy Baker. And I
think it was him. Yeah.
I think it was Troy. It was either Troy or Nolan North. I can't remember. Okay. This is Jim again. I would back us to do live service games ourselves, but when you have the potential to have a partner like Bungie who has been there and done it before, learned the lessons, and have got this wonderful, brilliant team who is there and has the potential to help us. We think we can take something that would have taken a certain number of years and significantly decrease the time it will take to get it right. I feel like this is cutting corners.
Yeah. This is buying the XP boost, so you don't have to level off in the fucking fields fighting the rabbits. You can go into the dungeon and get what you want. It's that's what you get when you make the big bucks, when you got Sony money.
I don't think that that's how you do it, though. You know what I
mean?
Because I think the best example, and I did hear this on another podcast, was like, this is them buying Gaikai for streaming before they knew what they had, and then they felt like they had to get something out, so they shit out PlayStation Now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, Sony's had a history with stuff like this, kind of half-baked ideas that they put a lot of money in, and just to kind of throw it to the side. But I mean, it's like, we talked about this before. It's like they got that fuck you money, and they can do stuff like that. And that's he's holding up a PlayStation Vita. Listen, this is a audio platform. That's sad. That's depressing. What a great system that is. That's just had so much. Anyway,
exactly what you said.
That breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
It was a great half-baked idea and was sent out to die.
Yes, it was sent out to die. And this could give you that kind of vibes, like these live service games or whatever you want to call them that you said that are in development, that they've kind of hinted at and stuff like that they're kind of wanting to shift towards. You're going to have this congruency issue. You're going to have what you got going on at Sony. Everything is internal. And then all of a sudden, we bought Bungie. We got to get this out in a year and a half. Go.
Yeah. We'll see. I think this, the live service thing, I don't know why they would be developing 3 or 4. It's going to cannibalize your own products. I mean, look at Battlefield and Titanfall 2. That, I don't remember what winter that was. I think it was like 2016 maybe. And they shipped those out at the same time, and they both, I digress. Finally, Jim added, quote, "We should absolutely expect more." He concludes, "We are by no means done. With PlayStation, we have a long way to go. I will personally be spending a lot of my time with Pete and the team at Bungie, helping make sure that everything beds down right, and that the autonomy means autonomy. But elsewhere in the organization, we have many more moves to make."
This is more acquisitions.
Yeah.
I think they've outside of these quotes, they've come out and said expect more announcements in the near future. And it's just like I'll harp on what I said in the last episode. It's not a console war anymore, it's a content war. It's just, what can we get? We suck it in. More content. And this, like I said before, this is kind of a forward-thinking thing. Bungie with Destiny right now is not worth billions of dollars. When you look at who was it that was bought for 200 million? You said earlier 300 million. Insomniac,
229 million.
Yeah, and look at the revenue that has brought in alone.
Well, look at their IP.
Yeah.
Like, Bungie and Destiny's great, and it has all these players across all platforms, but with Insomniac, you're getting Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. But
you're getting Ratchet, you're getting Sunset Overdrive, you're getting all these things. So it's not just one game. That's the problem with this for me, is that they're basically IP wise, they're buying one game for $3.6 billion.
And I think that's more focused on the technology side of this, right?
Yeah, sure.
How they've gotten the live service to work, the tools to work, the analyticals to work, that they've really hounded in and got to work. I feel like that's just as much in the price tag as Destiny, Let
me ask you this question.
Sure.
Outside of, your standard sort of MMOs, ongoing subscription-based games like Final Fantasy 14, Elder Scrolls, World of Warcraft, any of the other ones that I, might be missing. Is Destiny the best live service game?
It's up there. What is it the best? I don't know if it's the best.
Well, what's better? Warzone? I mean, what are we looking at? Fortnite, I guess. Well,
Yeah,
not a
I mean,
live service, is it?
I
mean, there's updates.
Yeah,
It's
I
also
mean, there's
free.
updates. That's true too. I mean, Bungie's got the admission fee.
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls has the
monthly, I think.
Yeah. No, it's pay to play. I think once you pay, you're in, and I think they have a monthly subscription service for extra stuff.
Okay.
And then Final Fantasy has a monthly fee,
monthly. Yep.
And also you buy the base game and the monthly fee. So there's a lot
of expansion packs you pay for,
and in the expansion packs, right? And with Elder Scrolls, it's you buy the game, you're in, and then you buy expansion packs. But as far as the game itself, so there's a bunch of different stuff working here. Like there's, as far as like a service, so. When I hear the word service, I think it's an extended period of time that you want a game to be active. So, I mean, I think all those fall into that. Yeah, some are MMOs, some are shooters, some are whatever. But you got to look at Fortnite. You got to look at Call of Duty. Of course, they're going to bring in PUBG, of course. But this is up there. I'm curious to see how it stacks up revenue-wise with some of the heavy hitters. But as far as technologically goes, like technology wise, it works. It works well. You have seasons in Destiny that people clamor for with the raids and stuff like that. And you have, some visual things you can buy, outfits, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. And, your same, fare of all this other types of games. So, is it the best? No. If we're talking success, you have to look at Fortnite. But it's still going. Is the longevity of it has to speak to it somewhat because it's still going, it's still successful, and it's still a pretty decent moneymaker.
When did Destiny 1 come out? Just vanilla Destiny. I have it. 2014, September 9th, 2014. Yep. So it's going to be 8 here this year.
Which they still do. They still do server updates for that game, which I thought was interesting. They still do updates. They still take it down for maintenance and stuff like that. So whatever size that may be, that still has a community too. But as far as even if you take Destiny as the live service that it is, this is not worth the billions of dollars that this is. This is a forward-thinking purchase. You have a studio that's very well versed in first-person shooters, very well versed in the technology behind a live service game. Plenty of updates, plenty of expansions that have all been relatively successful. And people have clamored for it. So this makes me think that they're going to have Bungie take a crack at an IP of theirs, of Sony's. Hey, I would, it's not that far-fetched for them to try a Killzone. It's kind of a space oriented kind of setting, kind of out there, sci-fi-ish way. I don't feel like that would be too big of a stretch for Bungie to take on.
No, they made Halo.
Halo oh yeah, that old thing.
Yeah. So I guess this is always my question about, and it's less relevant here, I would say, than with this being a third party thing versus say the Blue Point acquisition or the Insomniac acquisition or even the Housemarque, especially. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Just so Microsoft can't at this point. That's what it's starting to look like with some of these deals. We need to lock down, because I think the best example is with Insomniac. They made Sunset Overdrive. It was a Microsoft exclusive. It didn't do gangbusters, and they came back home and made Spider-Man. So why? Some developers are just more comfortable developing on one system versus the other.
And that's a good point, because Destiny's been very successful multi-platform, obviously. it really feeds into the idea that this was more for the technology side of it, right?
Mhm.
For to having those proprietary tools for their games, and to, like you said yourself, it's a proverbial mixing pot in there of technologies and game engines being used and manipulated by other studios in PlayStation's umbrella for these other games. So it
Mhm.
wouldn't be that far fetched to be like, here's what Bungie has, here's what you have access to, and to have all these other studios kind of take and pick and choose what they want out of it,
Mhm.
and not necessarily cannibalize it, but definitely pick through what they need and maybe even accelerate um, some game development. But like you said, that's not necessarily the best way to do things, but it kind of gets that feeling, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So the last question here, because I think a lot of the questions that we intended to talk about after the fact, we kind of talked about them throughout, so we can kind of cross those off the list here for the show notes. But I do think what's pressing, and we've talked 3 times, and we talk this every time. What more moves? What more purchases? Because at this point, we've seen Microsoft buy Bethesda, ZeniMax. We've seen them buy Activision Blizzard. They're throwing around money. Never in a million years would I have thought that Sony was going to spend $3.6 billion on anybody, even if it was Square. So
Yep.
now I'm of the mind that maybe they do have some, a little bit of gusto, that they're going to start throwing, big dick energy money out here.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, it's no longer it's a console war, it's a content war. So what can they lock down that's going to say, okay, we need to stay with PlayStation?
Yeah. And I think the timing of this is unfortunate because, as well as I do, these have been in the works, and they've mentioned this directly, but these have been in the works for half a year,
Right.
maybe, rumblings and talks about it. But, there's
It's
cross contamination. Like Sony knows what Xbox is doing,
sure. Yeah.
and probably pretty intimately what they're doing, and vice versa. So, I mean, the timing of this is pretty bizarre, to say the
Mhm.
least, like this happening back to back like that. But it makes you think that there was like a behind the scenes arm race.
Mhm.
Like Xbox is doing this. Well, we need to get started doing something else. And
Right.
um, it makes it seem like, with the timing of this, it makes it seem like Sony was desperate. Like people just wanting to assume that this just happened overnight or
Right.
just in a week or something like that.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Right. Right.
That's just not realistic. But it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that one got sniff of the other, and it's like, hey, we need to start working towards this as well.
Sure. I think on the subject of just the studios as a whole, I think that both of these large entities, Microsoft and Sony, are going to find it very difficult to manage all of these studios at the same time. And the reality of it is that Sony a has the experience of not being able to do that,
Mm-hmm.
because we saw in the early, or like the mid 2000s, them buy up a bunch of studios, and a lot of them got shuttered
Yeah,
very quickly thereafter.
gutted, and yeah.
Cambridge, Zipper,
Mm-hmm.
just to name a few. There's some other ones. So I think that Microsoft has like 27 studios or something now. It's just asinine. You know what I
What makes
mean?
you think it's going to be like EA? I mean, EA has a habit of buying up studios and then in 2 years cannibalizing them and moving
Right.
them on
Yeah.
to other studios and stuff like that, and you never hear from them again.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, yeah, they're not above that happening to them. I mean, yeah, it's PlayStation and yeah, it's Microsoft, but
Right. It's starting to look like Embracer Group,
right? Yeah,
THQ Nordic or whatever. I mean, they own
right.
like 75 studios.
Yeah,
They're all garbage, but
right.
you know, I think here's my other thing. Honestly, is I don't even necessarily think that the reason Sony purchased Bungie was so that Xbox couldn't. I think it's so that Tencent couldn't.
Tencent's a big player that a lot of people don't talk
Don't
about.
know about.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they don't talk about. Tencent has their
They're the
hand. We
most
talked about this a
revenue.
little
They
bit.
make more. Yep, they make more revenue in video games than any other company in the world.
Yep. And I mean, we touched on
Hands
it
are in a
last episode
lot
about
of
what
stuff.
they have their hands in.
A
Yes.
lot
And
of
it's,
stuff.
and they do it so quietly. There's
Mhm.
not big news announcements or
Nope.
nothing. It's just sweeping it right under their rug, and they just keep
Mhm.
trucking along. And it makes you worry when that shoe's going to fall, because you feel like
Yeah.
it's going to. Um, but I mean, yeah, that's something to consider too. Maybe it's a race with them, like an arms race.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the moves are? What do you think is potentially on the horizon?
I don't
I got
know. We
nothing.
talk about this every week, and I'm
Yeah.
getting tired of being wrong.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
If I wanted to look like an idiot, I'll just call my ex-wife. But
Oh.
see, here's the thing.
Wah,
It's
wah.
like you. It's like, what do you think they're actually working on versus what do you think will actually happen? I feel like they have their hands in a lot of things. We talked about Square.
Mhm.
Um,
Capcom.
I still think something like Devolver Digital is up there, like a really big indie publisher that does very, very well with even game development. Like they have a really, like, if you look at their, you know, their aggregate scores for their ratings and stuff like that, they put out very quality games. And I don't feel like the price tag would be that much.
Well, they just went public like at the end of December or
Oh, that's
sometime in that.
true. Yeah, very recent.
So there is that. I think that they'd be a tougher get now than they would have been even a year ago. Because they hit it big with some of the like Fall Guys and some of the other things as a publisher, not even necessarily as a developer themselves. I think with this, and I'm going to kind of go back to what I thought was a pie in the sky theory, but I think that they're going to try to look at closer to home. I think that they're going to take a long look at Capcom. I think they're going to take a long look at Square. I think they could take a long look at Konami, but Konami's got all those health spas and pachinko machines that probably.
What about FromSoft?
Well, FromSoft, they'd have to purchase off of its parent corporation because they're owned by someone. So that would be, that deal. That would be a good get. I mean, FromSoft, we talked about last time. They have a history of as working closely with Sony and second party Bloodborne, Demon Souls,
yeah.
Front Mission, some other games.
Look at you, old school with Front Mission. How dare you? How dare you, sir?
But there is, I'm not sure. I don't, and this goes back to the same thing as like you said, like indie things. I don't want to see indie things get taken away from other platforms. I don't want to see, because I think honestly, like who's the best studio that you could go get right now? I think it's Supergiant Games. With
the best. Do you think that's the best top tier?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because they make games that are different. They make games that are interesting. I'm sad in a way that Returnal got bought and we're never going to see a game like Resogun again.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, okay, I think we're talking about two different things here, because you're creeping into the fanboyism of it, and they don't give a shit about that. They just want the money.
Sure.
They just want the money. So yeah, you're 100% right. If they got bought up, it's going to be your generic schlock.
If money's no excuse me, if money's no object and you just want to throw out the biggest, we're just going to spend, then you go get Take-Two. That's just not realistic though. They're not for sale. But imagine GTA and Red Dead being PlayStation exclusives.
That'd be insane. But I mean, would that be any more insane than 6 months ago? I said Call of Duty was going to be an exclusive to Xbox. And
we know that at least the next 3 are coming to PlayStation,
right? So due to contracts and stuff like that.
Maybe but have some a fresher look on that in 2025. I don't know. We'll see. Or
I mean, that you thought Xbox was going to own WoW.
Wow.
I
honestly think the thing I think the one that makes the most sense, honestly, is probably Capcom.
Yeah.
I think that they have the longest history with PlayStation, specifically Street Fighter, as far as being, because the other thing too is with this is you do have to think of Evo. The PlayStation invested heavily in Evo. I don't know if they bought it outright, but that could be a thing. Bungie could be developing a competitive shooter for Evo, and obviously you have the fighting game community with Street Fighter. Mega Man kind of lives on Nintendo and PlayStation. Resident Evil probably is most at home on PlayStation consoles. So there is that. I think that that's probably the one that they have the most history with, but I don't think Capcom's necessarily for sale, but I didn't think Activision was for sale. So at this point, it's just names out of a hat.
I think, there's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, and with the Capcom thing, I think 3 years ago it would have been a better get, but now that Monster Hunter's really taken off.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Monster Hunter's taken off and it's sold like gangbusters, and that's really revitalized that series. That was such a niche game for a while, and with Monster Hunter Worlds, it's everywhere now. And I mean, they even made the Switch game that was very popular that recently came out on PC, but it sold like crazy on Switch.
Yeah, and Resident Evil seems a little bit revitalized between Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village. So yeah, I do think you're probably right about that. It was probably an easier get maybe three years ago as it would be now. On the other side of this things, and you mentioned bad timing, I think that this is bad timing for another thing, and that's specifically Gran Turismo, which had a state of play on Wednesday. I don't think you want to make a huge announcement like this that overshadows the game that you're about to show.
Yeah, and especially such a it's a smaller fan base, right? Your Gran Turismo, it's a first party game, but it's not going to sell like every other one.
I think it'll sell better than most. How much did Apex
really
sell? Apex, Gran Turismo games always sell crazy.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'll take your word for it.
What was the most recent one? GT Sport?
Yeah, something like that. But it was like a small demo kind of thing, right? I don't think it was a full-fledged game.
9.5 million sales on Sport.
Okay.
Gran Turismo 6 sold 5.5 million. That was the lowest in the series. GT Sport was bundled with VR. That helped it. That was actually the bundle that I got, and I immediately took the game back.
And this is coming from somebody who likes Gran Turismo. I've always loved Gran Turismo. I like car simulation racers, but I don't know, to dedicate a whole state of play to it.
Well, that's what they do now, though. Horizon got one.
But you got so many other things cooking.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen anything though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt like it was a dud. The presentation itself was fine. They showed off what they needed to show off. Sure. It looks great.
Yeah.
I think Gran Turismo falls into the category of your sports video game buyers. They are going to buy it regardless.
Yeah,
it's a Gran Turismo coming out. They're going to buy it. I don't care what it's. I'm going to get it. So I don't know if this state of play was even needed, or how much.
I didn't realize how close it was.
Oh yeah, it's right around the corner. What is it? March
4th. Yeah. I had no idea it was that close.
And that's what I'm saying.
Right. Just for it's worth noting, Gran Turismo is the highest selling PlayStation franchise of all time.
I mean, because it's been going on since PlayStation 1's on a box, or on a rock, and
80.4 million units sold. There's been 7 iterations. So by comparison, I don't know. Nothing else is that long, like you said. But the next thing that I can think of is probably Uncharted, which has 5 iterations. Uncharted's 1 through 4, and then the Lost Legacies sold literally half of Gran Turismo with 2 more iterations. So I mean, it is what it is. What I mean? It's a racing game. People that buy racing games buy racing games.
Yes,
I mean?
And I love racing games.
It's like a niche thing, but it's also kind of not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very true. And I mean, and towards the later iterations of Gran Turismo, you had people switching over to Forza. Forza really started ramping up,
right?
Both its arcade racer and their simulation racer.
Yeah, there wasn't any competition with like A-Spec and GT3 and stuff like that.
Right. You had what was it? It was Project Gotham Racing was one of their Xbox's first forays into a real racing game, which I love Project Gotham Racing. But then like Forza really started getting really good at what they do,
Mhm.
and yeah, probably started cannibalizing some of the sales from Gran Turismo.
Yeah. So the state of play was there. It was about a half an hour long. You check it out on YouTube or whatever. I mean, the game looks beautiful.
Oh, sure.
Obviously, I'm sure it'll play, really well. The physics will be
Mhm.
phenomenal. That's what Polyphony does.
Mhm.
Discord has been rolled out for PS5. Have you done this at all? Are you a Discord guy?
A little bit. I dabble. This sucks.
Yeah, there's nothing. This is just a bunch
There's
of it's just invites from people you don't know.
yeah.
Got
Yeah,
like
in
5 of them.
the PS5, it sucks. Like I don't know. It's like there's really nothing you can do on there that's
No,
different than what you can do just on the
no, it just
console,
shows people what I'm playing at this point.
right?
I assume there will be eventually more.
It feels rushed. It just feels like, hey, we got Discord here. Here, go, go, go.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've been without it for so long.
Right.
It's like, why rush it out in the state that it's in?
I don't know. We'll see how it plays out in the future.
Yeah.
If it's anything. Final topic, Halo. TV trailer was shown during football. Thoughts and impressions. You're more of a Halo guy than I am.
Well, that's a stretch.
Right. Is it?
Yeah. I've
I played Halo 2.
Uh-huh.
And shout out to the guy that I'm about to shout out. I played Halo 2 in Jeff Swackhammer's dorm room.
Whoa.
And that's the only time. That's the only time I've played Halo. I'm bad at it. I'm not good at Halo. So,
but do you think? I mean, you kind of got the gist of the story. Everybody. I mean, it's.
I only ever played multiplayer, so no, I don't have the gist. Master Chief looks badass in this trailer, though. I will say
he does, and I mean, it looks good. I mean, it looks good, but yeah, it's a trailer. It's hard to.
Sure.
I've seen plenty of trailers that look good, but then bomb.
Uncharted
as easy killer. I want this to succeed. Yeah. I want this to succeed, even though it's a Microsoft thing, and I'm not much of a Microsoft guy. I want this to do good. I want this to be interesting.
Here's my thing: as a non-Halo guy, I'm actually interested in this.
Okay, wow.
From number one, like I said, Master Chief looks badass. He looks really cool. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh, Master Chief, like, what's this asshole supposed to be? He's just a dude with a helmet on, but he actually looks really cool in the trailer. I know nothing about the lore, and so this is kind of like, I think that this is kind of geared towards people like me, because it's, well, not really, but in part because it is a way to get you in. You know what I mean?
Is this an origin story? Is that what this is?
I have no idea. I have no clue. I have no information.
That's the research you guys pay to listen to right here.
I responded. Do you know Mr. Matty Plays?
No.
Okay, so he's an Xbox streamer, and then he does the Xbox podcast for Defining Duke, which is the Xbox podcast for Colin's Last Stand. Okay. So he tweeted out after the trailer, like, oh, what are your thoughts, blah, blah, blah. And I said, as a PlayStation guy who has no history with Halo whatsoever, I'm really interested in this story. And a couple people tweeted back at me and said, well, it's doesn't have anything to do with the lore in the game. So poo-poo. It's Twitter, whatever. People are always just trying to
right. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, though?
For me, I think it's moot. You know what I mean? Because I have no history. If
because you're a blank slate, just getting a story.
Right. I think the converse, or the mirror to this, is probably how I feel about the Uncharted movie.
Yeah.
Because it's an origin story, and there's elements of all 4 games that I saw in the trailers, and I think it looks like a hot, steaming pile of garbage. I mean,
they could have picked a better Sully. I'm sorry. They could have picked.
He should have been Drake. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg looks like Drake. And then just let the actual. I don't want to go too far down that road, but they should have. I swear to you, they should have just let Nolan North and Richard McGonigal
just do it. Just do it.
Drake and Sully. But then you can't. Those are older guys, and you can't do the action set pieces and stuff like that. They actually did.
Harrison Ford says otherwise.
Oh man, he hurt his arm practicing punching somebody on the set of Indiana Jones 5. He's like a million years old.
How dare you watch your damn mouth, sir.
I love Harrison Ford.
He is a delight.
I love Harrison Ford, and I love Indy. It's one of my favorite series, but Nobody wants Indy 5. Nobody wants after Indy 4.
Yeah,
You want to talk about a dumpster fire?
Yeah,
Jesus
that's all
Christ.
right. But this is gonna be an Indiana Jones movie, right? Uncharted. It's gonna be a
It's gonna
glorified
be-
Indiana Jones movie.
It's not going to be a more fun Indiana Jones movie. You bite your tongue.
I said glorified.
Oh, glorified. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Dude, do you remember? And this is again, we're going way off the rails. But do you remember when IGN brought Harrison Ford in to play Uncharted 3?
Yeah. Yes.
Harrison Ford hasn't touched a video game console since the 2600.
They're in 3D.
Oh, my God.
It was awful. What a train wreck that was. What a little piece of history there.
I forget now. I forget everything.
No, but Halo looks good. I want it to succeed. I kind of hope. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I kind of want it to follow the game, but then I don't. Sure. Maybe I want an original story. Whatever. Just give it to me. It's
seems to be an original.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think
it probably is a little bit of an origin story, but that comes out pretty soon too. I want to say. I know it's on Paramount Plus.
Hey, another subscription service to buy.
Yeah. Well, I'm on that. I'm on that anyway because it's got Noggin.
Oh well, can't hide money there, Mr. Rockefeller. Gotta have them all.
I don't have all of them. Most of them. This was supposed to be on Showtime in 2015, and Spielberg was supposed to be the showrunner.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Release date: Halo TV series. March 24th.
Right around the corner.
So that's on. It's everything's piling up. March 4th is the Batman and all sorts of stuff.
You got huge game releases this month. February 1st of March is
what's been first. Dying Light 2's out, right?
Yes.
The game
and doing very well.
500 hours to complete.
Yeah. It's doing very well though. Yeah. Dying Light 2, very well received.
What else we got? Horizon on the 18th.
Mm-hmm. Sifu is doing very well.
Sifu got really good reviews. Yeah.
Metacritic. And then Elden Ring.
Elden Ring's a big one. If you're one of those fucking nerds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna love it. Yeah, my pocket protector.
This is those Souls fans, man. Just take a seat to the left.
Well, watch your mouth. Oh, we are a proud group of people.
That's the problem. Souls fans.
Yeah, we're real proud.
Did you beat Sekiro?
No.
Okay.
I kind of it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily care for it.
That's fine. I don't really care for it either.
It was okay. Like it was fun. It was whatever.
I got to the boss. We're just bullshitting now, but I got to the boss that shoots the arrows at you. That you have to like climb the tower, and then he shoots arrows at you. And I beat.
It's a feudal Japan game. I think they all shoot arrows.
Specifically, the boss that was at the top of the tower, maybe like a third of the way through the game.
Yes.
And he shot arrows at you. That was like his main thing, and you had to parry them. And it took me like 12 tries, and I finally beat him. And then he changed to his second form.
Had a second form, right? And just waxed the floor with you.
Fuck this, and I deleted the game on the spot and never played it again.
But didn't you feel that sense of pride and accomplishment once you beat that first form? No, not at all.
I felt relief. And then he like started shooting lightning at me, and I was like, okay, this is horse shit.
And you call yourself a gamer?
None of the bosses in Bloodborne had second forms.
That's a lie.
Which one?
DLC. Oh no.
Maybe in the Chalice dungeons. I didn't mess with those. Hardest boss in that game was Vicar Amelia for me personally.
Lawrence had two forms, right?
You're going back too far now. Listen, and then also we're just BSing.
Yeah.
Let's see. BXG podcast publishes every Monday, or I'm sorry, every Friday. I'm all over the map. Every Monday let me start over. Having a hard time.
And take Friday. 2 and action.
every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Special episodes such as this go up on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 a.m. Hawaiian, just in case.
Oof.
Aloha.
Yeah. What's up, my
Check us
brothers?
out on Instagram at BXG Podcast, at GT Phils for the standard host, co-host, at Y2B, and then on Twitter at GT Filson at Y2B. YouTube channel for videos such as this at BXG Podcasts. Ring the bell, like, subscribe, share. I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's
Facebook.com/BXG Podcasts.
Oh yeah, can't forget that.
Right.
I can't wait to see you next week when some other crazy conglomerate company gets bought up by another bigger conglomerate
when
company.
Tencent buys Nintendo.
Yes, we'll bring that to you. Live reaction to that. It's been a pleasure, brother.
Christ, I hope not. Yes. Take care, friends. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Be a friend, tell a friend.
I like that.
Be a friend, tell a friend.
Like, subscribe, share.